We want to say thank you so much for making an investment in your real estate business by being on the call tonight. Before we get started, I never, ever want to start the call without thanking Georgia RIA, especially our president, Mike Jacobson, and definitely our executive director, Karen Yap, because, again, no matter how many ideas we bring to the table, if they didn't support them, if they didn't, allow us to do this, we wouldn't be able to get this information out. And for everybody on the call, my name is Wendy Lovejoy. I'm the marketing director with Georgia RIA, and it takes a team to bring this information. So I am so excited we have a team like the board of directors and the members of Georgia RIA. Tonight's call is really a pleasure for me. Not even a good 6 months. It's not even been that long, but I feel like I've known this gentleman all my life. I was actually looking for a realtor. I was doing my own yellow letters. I was doing driving by, looking for abandoned or foreclosed properties, and I saw a sign. I called, and this gentleman answered the phone. Not only did he call me back when I left him a message within what seemed like less than a few hours, but he was so professional. And then he followed up with an email. I was just so impressed with his style. And I am a strong believer as a marketing coach, trainer, and just loving marketing that you are your brand, and whatever you do determines the kind of clientele you're going to attract. And this man just piqued my interest, and I said, I've got to get to work with him even more. So I referred a few people to him so far, and everybody that I've referred to him has just said great things about him. And so I said, have you ever heard of Georgia RIA? And at the time he said no, and I said I would love to invite you to our community because I think it's a win-win. You'll benefit us and we'll benefit you. And he came out, he became a business partner. As we spoke, he's going to share some of the things that happened. But I feel, again, like this is somebody I've known all of my life because of his expertise and just his professionalism and the nuggets that he shares. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce him and allow him to tell you a little bit more of who he is, who's trained him, the accolades that he's won over the years, and just his success and why we should be listening to him. And so with that being said, I'm going to bring to the call Donald Patterson.
Good evening, everyone. This is the first conference I've ever done, in about 35 years. Back in the early, 70s, I had the opportunity to graduate from a place called Annapolis. From there, I went on to radio and television. Little did I know in 1983 I would become a real estate agent. From there in Virginia, I was a managing broker, fee-paid appraiser, rookie of the year, et cetera, et cetera. But more importantly, I was trained by the number one trainer in the nation, Mike Ferry. If any of you have the opportunity to see him in Florida coming up and you're licensed agents, take the time, sit in the front row as I did, and close your mouth and listen. That's why you have two ears. Mike is phenomenal. He trained both Wendy and me many years ago. We've taken that and we've expanded on it, and we've enjoyed the benefits of a trainer like Mike Ferry. Wendy, you're the monitor. Please coordinate this as you see fit, because I thought I was given about 3 hours, and I've got 30 minutes, folks. This information is phenomenal. I am the broker owner of Commonwealth Real Estate Associates. I've been a broker owner since the late 80s. I moved here in 99 in the Atlanta area. What I'm saying to you folks in Chicago and other areas is the same Virginia Beach, the same Charleston, South Carolina, the same as Sarasota, Florida, the same as many places I've listed and sold properties in. The information that I'm going to give you tonight is what I call street talk. I'm in the field, folks. I don't sit in a great big desk. I don't work in an office. I'm in the field just like you. I door knock. And what I hope to bring to the table for you as my knees get weak prior to the actual event is a preparation for you to door knock. Prior planning prevents poor performance. You've heard that many times. In preparing for door knocking, you folks need to target why you are door knocking. What is your purpose? What is your goal? What are your target goal? What are you targeting? What are you trying to accomplish when you door knock? And Wendy, please, again, feel free to interject as we go along. I have about 24 topics I call bullets to go over, just to share with you some ideas.
And one of the reasons that I really have enjoyed you becoming a business associate, and I had the pleasure of shooting a video with you, and we have some upcoming trainings we will be bringing together to Georgia, including the online radio show called Georgia Street Talk, and I'm excited about that. So tonight, though, we want to focus on just really getting people to understand. Recently, Kurt and myself, the new members director, and myself started a coaching program for Yellow Letters, and I am excited to say one of the young ladies that I've been working with finally got her first appointment this weekend. I went with her, and we were able to just critique, and I told her, I said, you're going to get this contract. Don't worry about it. And sure enough, I got a text saying, yes, she's got the appointment to go sign her first contract. And you just said something, Don. You said this works anywhere. Now, you and I were trained by Mike Ferry, probably different times. You knew him before me, and so you knew him when he had the big afro. And I
gosh.
But
yeah, Mike called it the big hair days.
Yes.
Long ago. I always wonder why people went on stage and they only sold 120 houses or so, and they said that they weren't worthy. And now I understand. There's a certain discipline you folks have to have. If you plan on door knocking in your letter, put a date on your letter. Let me just share that with you. I put a date on my most recent letter. I put September 13th, Saturday. And I'll come into that. When do you have something else? I interrupted you.
Yes, no. This is about conversation so we can help the audience. But one of the things that I wanted to share is, like you said, it works everywhere. I've sold in Virginia Beach. My mom lived there. But the training that Mike gave us, we're both using dialogue and scripts. We fine-tuned it depending on our area, but it's pretty much the same. I did the same thing in New York that you did in Virginia Beach, and we're both doing it in Atlanta, but you are very specific on your letter to sellers, and Kurt and I are doing that training, as I said, on Yellow Letters, and just sharing with people how important it is that your letters are. I had the pleasure of coming to your office and just seeing what you did, and I said, oh, no, Don, we got to get this to the Georgia audience. So please first just go over how you target the people that you're going to give letters to.
Okay. Folks, it's about fourfold. You could do short sale, foreclosure, occupied, or vacant. So there's different targets. Specifically for those of you who are agents, there's one letter, and it needs to be very, very credible. For those of you who are an investor, it needs to be very specific because you're targeting one house on a street that you want to buy as an investment property. The first thing you do is identify the properties you are targeting because you're going to write a specific letter. And we're going to go about that now, I guess. The reason it's called door knocking is because it's not doorbelling. Folks, I've never doorbelled a house. I door knock. You see, kids wake up when the doorbell. Children are taught to wake up when the doorbell rings because it's a stranger. How many of you have doorbelled only to have a kid cry and the parents come to the door screaming at you? I door knock. I've never doorbelled. When I go, I plan ahead of time. If I do non-resident owner occupants, I know there's going to be a tenant. You see, any of you can go to your real estate agent. On the tax card in your state, there's an address where the taxes are paid from. For those of you who just tuned in from your state, on the tax card, your real estate agent can get the tax card for you. On that tax card is the address by which the taxes are mailed to. Mail your letter to that address. Then I hand carry. So when I knock on the door of the property, I know they're going to say, we're just renting. Well, we're only renters. We're not the owners. Folks, in objection handling, if you don't already have on a 3x5 card, or you don't already have the response ready, you're going to sit there like a doe in the headlights. You're not going to have a professional, smooth, and glib response to the tenant. In the house, you know that there's a landlord in another state. So part of my door knocking is to know, much like an attorney, the answer to the questions people are going to ask me. Because you see, when I drive up in the driveway to door knock and put my letter out, what's the first thing a neighbor's going to say? Can I help you? Hey, you, can I help you? Sure. I'm Don Patterson. I need some help. Immediately, I have a response. I identify myself. I'm Don Patterson. I need some help. From there, we're going to digress a little bit. In preparation for the letter, those of you who just tuned in, determine which doors to knock on. People who just bought in the last year are not going to move normally. You see, their sale price point is too high. It's not good for your ROI if you're investing, purchasing. So I'd like to go over a specifically targeted letter I did this weekend. And by the way, let me digress yet again. The house I'm living in, I bought in 2008 by door knocking. My wife and I selected 30 houses in a specific neighborhood, and I wrote a specific letter by name to the 30 homeowners I found in the tax cards, and I knocked on their doors. And I bought a house in the neighborhood I wanted at a price I wanted, just by door knocking and giving that letter. Overall, the letter is printed. In my case, I don't do yellow letters. I do white paper, black ink, and I sign in blue. Sometimes I'll sign in green for money. So in saving money and being frugal, the letters I do have color in them. And they are specifically addressed, if I want to buy in that neighborhood myself, some of you may actually buy the house yourself like I did, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Stan, Dear Mr. and Mrs. John and Mary Smith, S-M-Y-T-H-E. See, Smith is spelled differently. So I determine which doors to knock on. Anticipate the response on your 3x5 cards. So when they say, may I help you or can I help you, the answer is yes. Can you please help me? Step back about 3 feet, identify yourself, and then say the reason I am here is to put a letter on this door for Mr. and Mrs. Stan. My son and daughter would like to purchase their home, or my wife and I, or my husband and I would like to purchase Mr. and Mrs. Stan's house. Well, it's vacant. Oh my gosh, did they move? Where do you think they went? My letter I give to them because I have a duplicate. I've already mailed one to another address. I give an extra letter, signed in blue, to the person who asked me why I'm there. Wendy, jump in for a moment. There's new people coming on.
Please continue. That's fine.
Okay.
They'll get it on replay. That's fine.
Very good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your name and telephone number and email address must be on the letter. You need to be able to answer the phone. So when I door knocked on Saturday, this is so cool. I dated it September 13th. That made me get off my derriere and door knock on 24 doors. I targeted the enclave at Milton. Why am I being specific? My letter, I targeted specifically. Dear Mrs. Stan, Dear Mrs. Dorsey, Dear Mrs. Canacia, Edward and Tina Lee are very interested in living at the enclave at Milton Park. They previewed 2586 Wander Trail. However, an offer was presented and accepted prior to their decision to purchase in the enclave. They prefer to live in a 2-bedroom, downstairs location home. What have I said? I've given a date. I've given names of the buyer. I've given a unit that was for sale and sold to somebody else. I have given specifics in my letter. The reason I only put out 24 is because when you're honest, you never have to look over your shoulder. So, in helping this family, I'm a real estate agent, in helping this family buy, there are no units for sale. So in helping this family purchase, I only knocked on 24 of 78 doors. So I did not knock on every door. In the past, when I did that, off of Deerfield and Windward area of North Alpharetta, someone actually came out and said, well, why didn't you knock on my door? I said, the buyer I'm working with doesn't want your house. Well, we're cleaning it up to sell it. Great, I'll talk to you later. Here's the numbers, folks. I usually give out 55 letters. I gave out 24 this weekend. So far, I received a call from one unit. She says, I purchased in 2008. She identified herself and says, I need to speak with my real estate broker and see if you're real. You see, her letter was so specific, I thought it was a joke and a scam from one of my neighbors. So I looked at all the doors nearby, and I saw that you only put them on the doors on the left side of our townhouse units. Credibility. Let's see what I've got next.
Well, that is why I wanted you to share this information because, you know, we all want to have people kind of answer us back and communicate with us. And in the past when you've done this, Don, how many do you normally do, and what's your response rate? And from your response rate, how many do you end up closing?
Okay, thank you. Normally I'm kind of lazy. In a neighborhood of about 200, I'll only pass up maybe 55. I will not knock on every door. Now, this is me targeting specific houses to list. But on this specific letter, I truly have a buyer who wants to buy. So if you're an investor and you're targeting a neighborhood or a street or a specific house, your letter needs to say, my husband and I would like to purchase your home. That letter you do put out on that street. You see what I found with this investment group I'm buying with, they will buy wholesale, but they'll also buy other houses on the street, retail, close to retail, because they'll bring the value up of their wholesale purchase. And then they'll rent them out and sell them in 5 years. It's a neat plan. I've watched them buy several on one street to help the values of the ones they bought wholesale. So there's ulterior motives on that. Targeting your letters. What are you trying to accomplish? What response do you expect? 55, I get 5 calls normally. This time I did 24 on Saturday, got 1 response so far. I did another 47 off of Biblick, Rivermont Village, River Ridge, and I'm being very specific. I lived in 8870 Niblick Drive back in 2001 briefly. Would you believe in my letter I said that? In my letter, Edward and Tina Lee would also like to live on that street. So I went. Edward and Tina Lee are interested in living in River Ridge. They drove by and previewed 9035 Niblick Drive. However, they prefer to live in a home that backs to the fairway. I briefly resided at 8870 Niblick Drive in 2001 and am familiar with your neighborhood. My wife owns 416 Hawkstone Way just across the fairway in Rivermont Village. Now, how more specific can I get, folks? Your letters are in general. Hi, I'd like to buy your house. Well, that's not going to get the response. But if you take the time and you say things like, my wife and I would like to purchase. My son and daughter would like to purchase. You notice I've never said in these letters that I'm an investor and I want to give you a lowball offer and kick you out in 2 weeks. You don't do that in your letters. That's what they think. As soon as you say, I'm an investor, what do you think they're going to think? Investor's a bad word with folks. You're just a regular person. You want to purchase the property for your family. You've got to have a very good reason why you are there. Let's look at dress for success. You hear the stories about the people say you drop a pickup truck, wear your jeans and sneakers, and walk on there like a good old boy and knock on the door. Well, you never hear stories of people in a suit and tie getting shot at the front door. But you hear a lot of stories about the good old boys getting shot in the front door. You see, when I door knock and wait for a few moments, I look to the left, I look to the right, I step away from the firing pattern, so I step a little bit to where the door hinges are, and I step back 3 feet. And I look up in the windows and I wave, because the people are looking out the windows to see who the heck is knocking on their door. When they see me, they're chagrined, and they actually come to the door and say, "What do you want?" So I say, "Can you help me?" I say it in a conversational manner. I very simply say, "Can you help me? I'm working with a family, Edward and Tina Lee, who would like to purchase your house. Would you like to sell next year?" That's the letter I'm doing right now. You folks can do that letter to buy a house. If you're real estate agents, you can do it to get your buyer in a neighborhood. I can tell you later more specifics on how I do that. But I target them from expireds and withdrawals. I also target a street, and I ask the buyer, will you live on this street? If I find a property between this price and that price, can you live on this street? Let's drive down and take a look at a unit on the street. Most of the time, the units have sold. That way, I now have a specific house on a specific street that this buyer cannot buy. In addition, I write a backup offer. You see, every year as a foreclosure broker, I sell about 30 houses extra to the backup buyer. This is what you don't know in REO. I'm digressing, Wendy. In REO, I'll get an offer. I always get 12 offers. The offer who's a backup offer 30% of the time ends up getting it because the first offer offered too much and the repairs were $35,000 to $50,000 more than, so they walked. Second buyer gets it. Write backup offers. Next. Blue signature, mailbox. Don't ever put a piece of letter or anything near, against, or around a mailbox. Check out the mailboxes at these houses. They have rubber bands or plastic strip ties. The property is vacant. The mail is being forwarded. For those of you just tuned in, most of the mail on these mailboxes have vacant inside the box because the postal person is not delivering the mail. Mail it to this address and put it in the door because the people have a forwarding address and your letter will go to the forwarding address that they have all their mail forwarded to. So prior plan these. Numbers for the houses, make sure you got the right house. You don't want to put your letter in the wrong door. Most of the time on these vacant houses, the mailbox have had a baseball bat to them and they're on the ground where you can't find the mailbox. On the left or right side, you'll see this little green box called a cable box. The number of the house is there. Then you have these kids going around to their baseball or football or basketball or whatever teams, and they'll print letters on the curb in front of the house. Finally, house to the left, house to the right, house across the street, all have addresses. Whenever you're downtown Atlanta and you have an address, there's usually a north or south Fairburn Street. You've got to determine what street you're going to put that letter at the right house. Remember how a flight attendant on an airplane points forward, points to left and right, and does that hand gesticulation? You folks are not only going to knock on the door you want with this letter, but you're going to give the letter to the house on the left. You're going to give the letter to the house on the right. You're going to give the letter to the 3 houses in front of it and 3 houses in back. You see, the houses in back had the septic tanks leaking into the yard. They know John when he used to live there 5 years ago, and the septic field always leaked. They know where John moved to. So don't forget when you're door knocking, I door knocked the 3 houses behind the subject property to track down where the owner went because a neighbor knows everything about that. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. I speak at 144 words a minute.
And while you take that breath, I just want to go back to something you said because, again, you and I were trained by Mike Ferry, and I remember at my first meeting with him, the first thing he brought up, I remember being in a room with other real estate agents, and he said, Wendy, you're going to be successful. Your dress code is very professional. Then he pointed out some other people who thought it was okay to go and do business with their sneakers on and a tracksuit. And even this weekend, as I was working with the young lady that I was with, she said to me, "Wow, you're casual." I had dressed down, but I was very professional. And the lady that we met paid attention to that. And one of the first things she also said, because she had other people, other investors coming to the door to see the same property, I was early, went around the neighborhood, looked to see what's going on in the neighborhood, looked to see who I could talk to in the neighborhood. And then the young lady came and we were early for the appointment. The next person came and she automatically, as we were leaving, I heard her say to them, "You're late," before she even said hi. He said, "I'm an investor." She said, "You're late." And I knew he wasn't going to get the transaction at that point because a lot of people believe, one, well, Don, maybe it's the neighborhood you're working in, but I'm working on the south side. People don't expect me to dress up. What do you say to that?
Wendy, I dress up. I've always had people call me detective. I wear a darker suit, sunglasses. I drive a black car, and I drive up, and I look professional. Sometimes they'll call me detective. It's an image. They think I'm a lawyer. They're not used to seeing people in a suit and tie. My uniform, folks, is a suit and tie. I wear it every day because you can always dress down. I can't dress up. I can take the tie off, loosen the collar, take the jacket off, roll up the sleeves, take my socks off, and look casual. Or I can do what's called a first impression. You see, you only have one chance to make a first impression. People are going to judge you when they see you knock on the door. You may have been told that, well, they think you have a lot of money. They think you're rich. No. By your professionalism and your common talk, they will understand that you're human, you're normal, just like them. You're trying to buy the house for your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband. There's a reason why you're buying it. But no, I don't say it's for my investment portfolio. That's not right. You're looking to buy it for your son's college education. Could they help you out? Are they moving? Your turn, Wendy.
And this works, again, with yellow letters. That's why I thought this was so complementary to what we're doing, because I do the same thing. Most of the investors who are sending out yellow letters, we are specific. We are saying, "Hi, Mary Smith. My name is Wendy Lovejoy. My son and I would like to buy your house at such and such 123 Main Street." Sometimes I put, "We have access to cash," or "We have cash." And I might even add something like, call me, Wendy Lovejoy, P.S., call Wendy, and my phone number. Now, what are the things you put in your letter? Do you put your name, your phone number? Do you put your email? Do you put your website? Do you put you are a broker? What's in your letter besides the sentences?
Okay. It depends on why I'm door knocking, folks. If I'm door knocking for myself, I'm Don Patterson. If I'm door knocking for a buyer, I'm Don Patterson with Commonwealth. So in my investor one, I want to tag on to yours, Wendy. In addition to Wendy saying she had cash, check this out, folks. We can close within the next 30 days or a mutually agreeable later date in 2015. Perhaps you could sell your home to us, remain in it, at a very reasonable amount each month until you choose to transition to another home. A timely settlement would allow you to have the security and peace of mind of knowing that you had sold and closed to a ready, willing, and able buyer, me, who will take pride of ownership in their new home. We're also open, my son and I, which you would say, to negotiate other win-win scenarios. Please contact me at 770-401-7145 at your convenience. Got my second call today. 8870 called me. The one I lived in back in 2001, she called me and said, "Did you really live in 8870 Devlick Drive?" I went, "Yeah." She said, "Well, the back porch is caving in. Do you know who built it?" I'm going, you dialed the wrong number. So the neat thing is, the bottom line is, she's thinking of selling in 2015. So Edward and Tina Lee now have one house in the enclave at Milton. They have a second house off of Niblick Drive that they can look at and live in. The person living at 8870 Niblick is going to fix the back patio. She is a licensed agent, and she spoke with me for about 20 minutes today. So, 24 letters, one call so far, Saturday. 46 letters, one call so far today. I normally get, probably in the springtime, about 4 to 5 responses out of 55. That's my straight best I usually get, which is phenomenal. What I'm experiencing right now during the wintertime is about 2 in 50. Wendy, your turn.
And the thing is, you don't, there's no end date. There's no expiration date on these letters. They have the letter. They can call you a year from now, 6 months from now, 2 days later. That's what I love about these letters is I have, you know, I've sent out letters 6 months ago, and some people are calling now, or just as you said, Don, people call and say, no, I got your letter, but I'm not thinking of selling now. I have a townhouse, though, that I might sell in about 6 months. I have tenants in that one, but I'm not selling this one. And you'd be surprised when you're just holding conversations like, help me out, or how can I help you? They begin to share more information. So everything you're saying is so true. And I feel like you have to be with us this weekend, because some of the information you just shared was one of the things I was sharing with the young lady I was with, Della, when I said to her, we have to give the seller options. And if she wants a quick sale, then we go lower price point. But if she has time and she's not in an urgent situation, but she's looking to sell, we can go higher, but we need more time with her to make that happen. So do you give the sellers you're talking to more options, or are you just specifically looking for one buyer? Because I just heard 2 transactions out of your mailings in the past couple of days.
Well, absolutely. This is just for one buyer. When I'm working with investors, or I'm working for people who want to knock on the vacant houses, you already know they're vacant. The whole purpose of that door knocking, when you're door knocking this letter to get that one house, is if it's foreclosed, by the way, and it does go into foreclosure, folks, you're not going to be able to call the bank and find out who the asset manager is and buy it before it goes into multiple listing service. Those days are gone. Back in 2006, 2007, I might have called Chase. We might have sold it a couple weeks early. When you're knocking on those doors and these vacant foreclosures, you need to see if you're doing a short sale or one that's going into foreclosure. If it's going into foreclosure, perhaps you can purchase it, close before the foreclosure date. And that's another segue. On the first Tuesday of each month, I am at the courthouse steps, either Fulton, Cobb, Cherokee, or Forsyth. I'm physically at the courthouse steps. Wendy will talk about that later, invite some people to go with us and watch what happens on the courthouse steps.
Yes, we actually have a training that we have coming up with that, and a call that we'll be doing for those listening. That's one of the 3 series call that we're doing with Don Patterson, because as I said, he's just a wealth of knowledge. Today we're going to really focus in on these letters, because the other thing that I noticed when I was in your office, because you and I guess it's that Mike Ferry energy, we have like a kind of a challenge going. You said your letters will outdo my letters. So when I looked at how you fold your letters, talk about that.
Thank you. Hey, folks, letters are not just a single piece of paper. Tri-fold your letter. I don't have it blank on the outside like an envelope. I'm too cheap to buy envelopes, folks. When I print that piece of paper, in my office I recycle my paper. I put it on the back side too, if I'm not going to give it out. When I'm giving letters out, I make sure my ink cartridges are put and shaken. They come out crisp. They're not little white blotches all over the logos and stuff when I get my letter ready. And when I print them out, I put them on 1200 DPI. Then I sign it with blue or green ink, depending on my mood, and I tri-fold them. You see, I tri-fold about 20 at a time. When I'm doing 50, I'll tri-fold 20 at a time. I'll shake them out into 3 sets of 3, 30, 30, 30, whatever, up to 90 if I do 100 on the doors, and then I fold them again so that I can put them like an envelope between the doorknob and the door jamb. There's only one door in Virginia Beach that beat me in 1985. It was a 6-inch handle, Spanish stucco, never forget it, off of Independence. I could not put my letter between the doorknob and the door frame. So when you go up to these doors, you're praying, don't answer, please, Lord, don't let them answer. I'm just going to leave my letter in here and run. Don't do that. Fold your letter into 3. It's kind of flexible. Stick it between the doorknob and the door frame. When you get about 30 or 40 feet away, you'll hear a door open, and you'll hear the people take that letter because they don't want to come to the door. So the letter is folded with the wording on the outside, not white and clean. All the wording is there like a postcard so they can read it. So I fold my letters differently using the elasticity of that piece of paper to fit in the doorknob if they're not home. I do not put it in, near, or around a mailbox. Some of my agents up in Virginia learned the hard way at $30 fine per piece per mailbox. One other thing I forgot. When they say, hey, what are you doing here? Many times when I step back and I don't have anything in my hand, because I'm just doing that one house, I put my hands up in a sign of nothing in my hand and say, I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything. That stops them immediately. So I go, yes, you can help me. I'm not selling anything. Just stops them. I'm trying to find who lives here, if it is indeed Mr. and Mrs. Stan, and would you be interested in selling this house in 2015? And then I zip my mouth, open up my ears, and listen to everything they say, which sometimes is, get off my property.
Now, if they said that to you, do you get offended? Do you stop doing letters? How does that make you react?
I am so sorry. This must be very emotional. Sounds like you're getting burnt by the bank. I am so sorry. I start walking off. They'll start chattering. They'll start talking. You see, I do a Peter Falk. Remember Columbo? Peter Falk was so cool at getting information. He'd go, okay, and he'd start walking off. And then he'd turn around and go, you shot her with a gun in the kitchen at 5 o'clock. And the person would confess. It was so neat how Peter Falk said, by the way, can I just ask one more question? So you turn, you start walking away, you've got to have this planned. By the way, I understand that you're getting burned. See how I'm stuttering? All this is on a 3x5 card, folks. I practice this in a mirror. So it sounds like it's coming across as natural. Sounds like you're getting burnt by the bank. My gosh, is there any way that someone could buy this property and you could live in it for maybe 6 months or a year until you transition out? What's going on? See how I'm talking conversationally? I dropped my voice an octave. I didn't go, will you move? I didn't upswing my voice. And I also parroted them. Learn to parrot people. If they talk sing-song, you talk sing-song. If they talk abrupt, you talk abrupt. Parrot people when they answer you. This is emotional. They're losing their house if this is a pre-foreclosure. They're getting burnt by a bank who's not responding to them in their mind. So that's one of the things I do, Wendy.
And again, that works with yellow letters. Karen was listening to me, our executive director, last Wednesday, as my phone was ringing from the letters that I sent out. And one of the gentlemen that called me said, I'm calling you because your letter, I got your letter, and I'm behind in my mortgage, and I'm trying to do a short sale. I do want to work it out. And I said, you know what? If I can help you in any way, that is what I'm here to do. You sound like you're looking to hold on to your home, or do you absolutely feel that you're not going to sell in the future, or are you looking to sell in the future? And he said, I'm trying to hold on to my home, but if it doesn't work out, I will talk with you. And as we had a conversation, he then said, you know what, I'm going to give you every update, and I want you to walk me through. And, we just built a communication. It wasn't about, listen, I got to meet you, and I got to get a contract, and I got to get you sold because I know I see $10,000 from the sale of your property. I don't get every deal I go for done, but I get more people communicating with me, and therefore you end up closing more transactions because it sounds like we're doing the same thing. We're going to help. Our mindset when we show up at the door is, how can we help these people? And my old broker, Chuck McGill, used to say, the money going in your pocket is in direct correlation with the amount of people you help. If you're not helping people, you will not get paid. And so some people, I keep saying, you can't focus on the dollar amount. So you've touched on how you fold the letter. You've touched on, how many letters you do. Let's go into maybe some scripts, because most people, one of the things that I'm finding is that new investors, new agents, they don't do what Mike Ferry taught both of us early in the game, which is to practice your scripts and to write them on a 3x5 card. Have it with you when you are speaking to sellers on the phone and read it, and it'll come out naturally. So what scripts do you use when you're talking to these sellers?
I have 3x5 cards. When you're at the door, it's harder, folks. You're tap dancing and whistling at the door. You better have your 3x5 cards memorized. But actually, when I was new, and Mike Ferry taught me this, I actually carried on a little checkboard. I carried my script, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I carried my script. I would look down at it, and they said, "What are you doing?" I'm going, "Well, I'm reading my questions." Oh, why are you reading your questions to me? Well, you see, each question is very important to me. I don't want to miss an important question. So it was so cool. Mike Ferry taught me to write down my questions. And my answers were always outstanding, great, fantastic, unbelievable. So you always had the answers there. Whatever they said, the answers were great, unbelievable. If it's a sad case, oh, I'm so sorry. Wow, gee. So I always had one-word answers, short and simple, back to why you're there. Answer their objection, parry it off like a sword fight with a one-word simple answer. We hate real estate agents, I understand. Are you moving next month? So Mike always gave us a simple one-word answer to many of their objections. But some of the neat points on these that we learned, let's see if I can find it. On the 3x5 cards, there's actually a finite number of responses someone can come up with. Most are predictable, and you can have a rebuttal. One of the simple ones when I knock on that door is, "Oh, we're just renting." Get this, folks. Listen how this sounds. "Oh, great. When's your lease up?" I did not say, "When is your lease up?" I just spoke WENZ. When's your lease up? Then shut up. If you've got a renter, folks, they're moving in 6 months. Probably if they've lived there half a year. Maybe they just moved in. They're moving in a year. Maybe they're on a lease purchase. They're moving in a year. Most renters do not buy the house they're in. Many lease purchases do not happen because they're always looking over their shoulder to see if they could do better. And their friends, acquaintances, loved ones say, "Boy, did you get burned. You could have done better." So my script, when they say, "We're just renting," is great. When's your lease up? Then I shut up and listen to their response because I've got a buyer. Those of you who have your agents, why can't you give that renter to your agent? And you've got a non-resident landlord. Folks, you can send a letter. I give the letter to the tenant. I say, "Would you please," I've already put postage on this. I've got a little postage forever stamps that I put on the envelope in front of them. And I actually carry envelopes in my little case. I put the letter in the envelope. I put my stamp on it, on the blank envelope, which I carry with me, in a little folder. And I say, "Would you please mail this to the owner for me? I would love to buy this. My son and I would love to buy this house." Wendy, your turn.
And people are willing to help. That's the amazing thing when you show up with that caring heart. I've said this over and over. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. So when you ask the right open-ended questions and you wait for them to communicate, often I see as I'm coaching or out with people is that they're in a rush to talk, and they don't listen to what the seller, they'll tell you a lot if you just listen to their conversation. If a seller is saying stuff like, I want to sell, and they keep saying my house and I'm decorating, and if you sell it, if I give you my house, are you going to sell it or are you going to move in? And they still acting like they own that home. You've got to be able to handle it with scripts. So I truly believe the more scripts that you have under your belt and you take the time to practice them. Don, I watched him even showing my mom homes. He relates to her very differently than he related with a younger couple I referred to him. And anytime I know of anybody that's looking, I go to a home and the seller needs to move, I'm going to refer him for the transaction because I know he's going to handle them professionally. I actually did a yellow letter. A gentleman said to me, I need to relocate, but I cannot sell my house in the time frame, and I cannot go lower. I cannot get a short sale because, I'm making great money. And I said, I know the perfect person for you to speak to. And I referred him to Don, and Don was able to educate him. And, not every deal is about how much money you can get. So it's so important to understand that the deals, the door knocking, the envelopes, the follow-up, it's really going to make it more profitable for you if your mindset is, how can I help these people? So you heard Don. He went over the letters he does, the way he door knocks, again with a specific letter. He also went over how he finds the areas that he's focusing on. Don, we did mention a little bit about how you handle objections, but can we give them a little bit, maybe one more dialogue that they can use no matter what door they go to?
Sure. It doesn't matter who answers the door as long as a human answers the door. When they get the kids, like, God made strictly mom and dad now. So, little kids look at me and go, Mom and Dad, there's a big man at the door. So, I try to interject some human, but there's ways. I guess, folks, the scary part is just get off your butt and go to the door and door knock. When they answer, I go, I need some help. I am working with my son to help my son or my daughter purchase a house on your street. We drove by last week. Now, this is part of my letter. Okay, this is part of my letter here. Let me find it. It's letter number whatever. We drove by and previewed the outside of the other properties. If your property is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or larger, my son and daughter would like to buy it. They can close in the next 30 days or on a mutually agreeable date. Back to the objections. Okay, back to the objections. I'm not selling anything. I'm just a regular person like you. My husband and I are trying to purchase a home on your street. The house next to you is vacant. The reason I knocked on your door is you're trying to find out if you knew where Mr. and Mrs. John T. Smith III moved. No! Thank you very much. Well, have a good day. I take 3 steps, and I turn around and go, oh, by the way, when do you plan on moving? And Y-O-U.
Sounds familiar.
Y-O-U. You're going to remember that. You have to start walking away. And I turn around and go, oh, by the way, when do you plan on moving? Never. When I die. Great. When will that be? And they will look at me incredulously like, you schmuck. And but I've got the answer because they've got a smart answer to me. When I die. Never. Great. When will that be? So these are things you now remember, Wendy, that we were taught back in the 80s by Mike.
Mm-hmm. And they still work.
You do not try to defend yourself. I guess the biggest thing in summary about my responses to their objections is I do not defend myself. I counter back. Great. Oh, I'm so sorry. Unbelievable. One of the neatest things I was taught by Zig Ziglar back in 1981 was unbelievable. What does it mean? It's ambiguous. Who cares? You can say unbelievable all day long. Start saying it at the cash registers when you check out. When you say, how you doing today? Just go unbelievable. They'll go, Well, is that good or is that bad? You'll have a conversation with people. So I knock on doors. I go, that is unbelievable. Oh, my gosh, really? Wow. When do you plan on moving? And when would that be?
And one of the ones that I like to add to that one, which you will remember, my favorite is, but if you were to move, when would that be? Because sometimes people say to you, no, I'm not moving. And I say, no, but if you were to move, when would that be? Oh, 10 years, 10 years from now. You know, it's just conversation. And again, you've got to practice these scripts so that they come out of you like you having a conversation. When I learned this stuff, I met Mike in the 90s. And when I learned this stuff from Mike, it was difficult. I practiced with my kids. I practiced with family members. And now people say to me, oh, my God, you're so great with sellers. You're so great. But it took practice in making these scripts, a habit in learning to answer a question with a question. Because one thing that I've learned in negotiating is that the person asking questions is the person who's controlling the conversation, not the person who's answering everything. So that's very, very important. The last thing I want to ask you is, Don, do you ever purchase any properties without seeing them?
No way, folks. Oh, my gosh. Whoa. Those of you in other states or stuff like that are trying to buy down in Florida right now, my partner and I back in, 2006, could have bought 20 properties down around Sarasota. We would have lost our buns. It's called eyes on. Eyes on. I do not buy a property I have not seen, that I have not put my eyes on. Those of you in other states, those people listening from Nigeria or different countries right now, you must have someone here you trust that can take about 70 pictures of the house. I didn't say 12. I take about 70 to 80 pictures of these houses when I work with out-of-country investors. Sometimes I'll do videos. I'll make sure I've been all around the properties. If they are accessible, I will go inside. But I have never bought a property that I did not put what's called eyes on, and it's my eyes because it's my money. When money goes into the house, it's no longer liquid.
Awesome information. And for the people that missed any part of this, you're going to get it on replay. What we're going to do at this point is open up for questions, because I really believe that Don shared a lot of information, and if you go ahead and practice this information, you will find it very, very helpful. So with that being said, we're going to see if Karen, our executive director, can unmute us. Now you can ask any questions you may have of Don, whether it's scripts or anything he mentioned on letters.
Hey, nobody, goodbye. It's real simple. It takes a while to think up your questions, folks. If you have any, please feel free to jump in and ask.
Okay, well, does anybody have a question for tonight? Because, again, it was all about your letters and scripts and things of that sort. So is there anybody on the call that has a question for Don? I hear people fidgeting.
Okay, this is Don, still here.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're people are I guess you've gotten enough information tonight. I'm going to encourage you to listen to the replay. If for some reason you're trying to unmute yourself to ask a question and it's not getting through, feel free to email the question and we'll address it on the next call. On the next call, we're going to be going over some of what you heard Don mention tonight: foreclosures and buying on the courthouse steps. I think that's going to be very helpful. And tonight's information, I know, has been extremely helpful. Don, is there any last nugget you want to give out before we close out?
Yes, I send a handwritten mail thank you note to the people I speak with because I know the house I knocked on. I send them a thank you note, handwritten. That's all.
And not something typed up. It's definitely handwritten short notes saying thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking with me the other day. If you are thinking of moving in the next year, please give me a jingle. Something real simple, and I handwrite it.
Awesome. And I am really, really grateful and thankful that we got to do this call tonight. I know a lot of people got information that was very helpful tonight, and I cannot wait to see all the other nuggets you're going to be sharing in the future. So I definitely look forward to doing more of this with you. And again, thank you so, so much for tonight's call. One last thing I want to share with everybody. As I mentioned before, we are going to be doing a online radio show, which is going to be called Georgia Street Talk. And we're going to be interviewing a lot of people. One of our first guests is going to be Steve Loby, and I cannot wait because he is doing something that's going to help people really look at their finances differently. You'll get to know Don and myself a little bit more, and just our goal is to keep you on the pulse of what's going on in the streets as a real estate investor. That is our goal. Again, this call is on replay for the people that missed it. If you want to hear it again, please look out for your 7-day forecast, and it will be in your email, and you can listen to it again. Don, I cannot thank you enough. Awesome, awesome information, and I'm going to use some of the stuff that you shared tonight. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I know the audience did. Again, thank you, Karen, our executive director. Thank you, Mike Jacobson, our Georgia REIA president, and thank you for all the members that made it to the call tonight. With that being said, this call is officially over. Thanks again. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.